Run to Old Navy to treat yourself with up to 40% off store-wide on fall's best dresses, cozy sweaters, and must-have jeans. Talk about a treat. Save up to 40% off at Old Navy or OldNavy.com. Run to Old Navy today. Valid 10/23 to 11/1. Select styles only.
Goldilocks Productions presents the Living in Partnership with Spirit show with Ingrid Turner. Ingrid is a spiritual medium, a spiritual coach, and diviner. She connects with loved ones, spirit guides, spiritual energies, and the higher self to help her clients heal, connect with their authentic spiritual path, and live in their power. This 1-hour show will give listeners the opportunity to call in and ask a question from Spirit, get spiritual guidance, or to ask questions of the special guest. Call in now to reserve your spot on the switchboard. The call-in number for this show is 657-383-1895. Enjoy this healing and powerful show.
Hi, welcome to the Living in Partnership with Spirit show. I'm Ingrid Turner, your host. I am so happy to be here. Not only my work with you, but the work of the many healers and intuitive spiritual leaders and teachers I get to have on this show. And of course, wisdom directly from Source, Divine Spirit. So I work with people as a spiritual medium. I connect with Spirit on your behalf, relay messages to you. I give private readings, and I work with individuals and groups on an ongoing basis to help you connect directly with Spirit, and through that connection, help you develop your own spiritual structure. So you can learn more about me and what I do on my website at www.ingridhturner.com, INGRIDHTURNER.com. You can also connect with me through my Facebook group. It's the Living in Partnership with Spirit group, so it's the same name as this show. Just plug that into Facebook search and it'll pop right up. I like to start with a definition to living in partnership with Spirit, or at least how I define living in partnership with Spirit. For me, it means to commune with the divine. It means living from a place of feeling and intuition and living with less anxiety and more certainty as you move forward in life. Ultimately, I define living in partnership with Spirit as living your highest purpose in this body on this planet. So what this show does is explore different themes, topics, and paths to living in partnership with Spirit. And we'll delve into the many ways by which human beings communicate, experience, and work with Spirit in their daily lives. Show guests and myself will talk about our experiences, our spiritual work, and answer your questions. So each week, we explore a different topic related to our overall theme of partnership with Spirit. You are welcome and encouraged to call in with your questions for myself or for our guest. We will not be doing readings on air during today's interview, but if you have a burning question, stay on because I'm setting aside the last 20 minutes of our show for readings. The number is 657-383-1895, and you press 1 to get on the show. So this week, I'm so excited to have Lisa Greenfield on to talk about her work as a hand analyst, tarot card reader, and astrologer. Lisa has a really unique way of serving her clients. She does an amazing job of marrying biology and intuition to help her clients understand their innate urges and instincts, and then uses that powerful intuition of hers to help them navigate out of self-destructive behavior patterns and into a more enlightened living space. So Lisa, welcome.
To be with you. Yeah, oops, I got beeped. Does that mean you can hear me now?
I can hear you. I think you're
good.
good.
Wonderful. I wasn't sure what the beep was. It's like, wow, I just started talking.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're on. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on today. So, hey, before we dive in, can you tell us how we can contact you?
Sure. People can find me at truthinhand.com, and there's a contact section that anybody who wants that can put in a question, tease it out, see if there's something else I can help you with. And there's also a gift online sample. No charge to you. You can take a little mini online sample of hand analysis to see what your hands can tell you more about yourself.
Ooh, that's cool. And they just have to go to truthinhand.com and they'll find it right there on the homepage?
Yeah, it's right there on the homepage. And if they want to talk to me, they can just click on contact. Or
Great.
the talk to me. which is a fun little survey. You can tell me more about what it is that interests you, because some people come in on the metaphysical side, some people come in on the biology side, since I straddle both. Some like to geek out with me. So there's a talk to me section.
That's great.
You can tell me what your preferences are. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So just a quick reminder to our live listeners today, if you would like to call in and ask Lisa a question about her work during this interview, we absolutely welcome that. But we are not doing readings while working, so please do call in with your questions about the topic, but the last 20 minutes of the show is set aside for the readings themselves. So once again, the number is 657-383-1895, and you press 1 to get on the show. Okay, Lisa, I want to ask you, before we dive, I think this topic is really cool, the biology and the metaphysical, but before we dive into that, can you give us a little bit of background on Lisa, like where you come from, how did you get into the work you're doing, how long have you been doing it, you know the drill?
Ah, yes. Well, I started as a young child, believe it or not. I thought we were being punished because we weren't allowed to watch a lot of TV, so we would clean out the libraries. And my brother brought home a book from the library on palmistry, and he used me as an example. He was testing, he was reading through it, and I was fascinated. So he moved on to another subject. I was hooked. I went to read every book I could get my hands on palmistry in 3 different libraries and learn the difference between Indian and Chinese and the different, all the different flavors. And then I pulled it with me into the corporate world, because what happened was I, of course, never considered this as full-time work, not for a long, long time, but it was such a fascination that when I went into sales, this became, hand analysis became my way to get to know people. And then one of my very fun and unusual clients that was on Disney Studio, when I walked on Disney Studio, in my other career, my sales career, she said, "Do you know how to read tarot cards or do astrology?" And I said, "No." But she was so fascinated with the palm reading that I gave her that she goes, "Well, I'm going to teach you because you need to know it." And that was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I then kept incorporating these tools, and it was what I loved, in a way to meet people that I could have a conversation beyond just the sales conversation, which was, as minimal interest to me, in all honesty, but was my job, and they were paying me for it. But this was the way that I got to know people, and it gave me an unprecedented opportunity to really enjoy the clients I was getting to know, which wound up making me very successful in sales. So I had this little interesting duality, this marriage of corporate and metaphysical that went on for a good 20 years. And it wasn't until my last job, I was running a company, multi-million-dollar company with 4 divisions, and they were on an acquisition frenzy. So they bought too many companies that were management top-heavy. And to be honest, I was the least happy in my job, and I didn't have strong industry background. I had management and sales experience, but not in their industry. So they let me go. And it was an ego crush, because I've never had somebody decide not to work with me. But somebody very close to me, actually 2 people very close to me whose opinions I trusted, said, "I don't understand why you don't do this," pointing to palm reading, a hand analysis. "I don't understand why you don't do this. You light up when you do this." And I said, "That's not a job." And they go, "It is if you make it one." So
wow.
Yeah,
so you did.
That was the track. Yep.
So how long have you been a full-time full-time doing this work, this intuitive?
I know, because exactly. Intuitive reader is kind of what I've landed on, because I'm such a hybrid. So yeah, but I've been doing it full-time now for 8 years. So it's been an interesting path.
And you're happy.
You know what? It's been a fantastic exploration of what I love.
Yeah.
And I never get tired of seeing a new person, and getting to know them through their hands and their astrology.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the science and the intuition, because most of us have a bit of a divider line between the two of those. We know there's a connection, but we're sort of fuzzy about it. I've heard you say, one of the things I've heard you say is that the lines on your hands are like an EEG. So can you explain and expand on that for us?
Sure. What we're looking at is, when we're looking at our hands, is really just kind of a map of how our thoughts and our feelings connect and work together. All right, so it's when you get an idea in your head, some ideas stick and loop and some just flow in and flow out. But the ones that follow a pattern, and that's what our brainstem, we have 3 sections. I'm a brain geek. I started out, studying pre-med, and because I couldn't do the science, I wound up, going into sales because I still love the idea of how we work. But when I study the brain, what we do is that combination of thinking and feeling and acting on something, that triple threat is what creates a little synaptic, path in our brain. So when we're thinking, feeling, and acting on something, which we're conditioned to do by the culture that we grow up in, but we're not limited by, it's simply a path of least resistance. It's the familiarity. So it's one that we slide back into when we're under pressure and when we've got, challenges in our life, because our brain knows how to navigate that. And our brain stem, which is one of the reasons why they say to us that people only use 10 to 15% of your brain, it's because our brain stem is usually the one making the decisions. It's 2 seconds faster than the other parts of our brain, but it's not smart. But those are the pattern recognition, features that help us know how to survive. And those patterns show up in our hands with that, those lines and creases, and even the shape of it. And as you think, feel, and act on something in a new way, then it reshapes. It just the blood flow and the electricity go down different pathways when you replace a habit with a new habit. And the old ways just kind of, it's like a footpath you don't use. Nature reclaims it and it grows over. Well, the same thing happens with the lines in your hand. Okay, so when you are shifting and changing, lines in your hand also reveal the new directions that you're headed. And it also has these, when you know what to look for. I've been looking at hands for the better part of 40 years. So you've got a map. When I look at your hands, I can see a map and all the contours and the features of tens of thousands of hands. I understand what we're looking at and can help you. And, it's like, okay, there's water here. Say your life feels like a desert in one place. It's like, yeah, but there's an underground spring right over here if you know where to look. And that's the map in your hands, much like an EEG.
Right. So it's like you're talking about, changing your brain, changing your mind, changing the lines in your hand. If for me, what came up as you were explaining that was your palm, lines on your palm are acting like a mirror of sorts for the changes that are happening in your brain, in the higher level functioning of your brain.
Yes, they absolutely are, because you're thinking and feeling it. Obviously, we can't see our brains, but if we could, we would see the wrinkles and we would see the different areas. The brain scans can show you that. But you don't need to do
but we know that it does change in the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. And you know what else I love about that? Knowing that, when people think about palm reading, it have a very fatalistic attitude towards it. Like the lines in your, this is the way it is. Like you're you're doomed, or it's like we get to, and that's something that I love about the intuitive work in general. Any area that you're, any tool that you're using, any area that you sort of specialize in, is it's just not set. It's a tool to help us better ourselves and better our lives. And I love what you're doing with the palmistry. You can explain the science behind it to really it's not so ethereal. It's concrete. We're physical beings in a physical world. You're giving them something physical to sink their teeth into, and control. You're giving people a sense of control over their own destiny.
Yeah, although I like the word command even better than control. Control is where we start, which is when we're trying to manage things, people, processes. Command is that place inside of us. It's like our backbone that knows that no matter what is going on outside of us, we know ourselves, And so we're going to be able to call on our strengths no matter what the circumstances are.
Brilliant. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And that, words, a little tweak in our language can change everything for us.
Well, and that's just it. It really, wait a minute, before you move on, that is so important and so powerful, because we get so caught up with focusing on what we don't like, but that actually does give you blood flow and electricity. It dials up the region of your brain that's focused on that pattern of what you don't like. And it increases the odds that you're going to see more of what you don't like. So it really is something where a simple shift to start seeing more, to start incorporating more of what you do like, will crowd out what you don't like, so that it just slips away rather than having to be a brutal wrenching away.
You just took the woo out of the law of attraction. You just stuck it. Like, here's the biology between creating our reality and the law of attraction. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I feel like you should write a book about that.
Well, thank you. I do love, working with people who do like the law of attraction, because this is, what backs it up. There's more of a process to it. It takes a little less of that sparkle and the magic wand out of it, but it's, in fact, it really is. There is science behind it, the neuroscience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that magical wand, I feel like, is such a great starting point for us. I know just what you're talking about. You get inspired by stories and hearing about the law of attraction. Anything is possible, and you have command over your life. But the thing that the science does, the backing up with something physical, with physical processes and things that we can really sink our teeth into in the physical world, like I said, that's what gives us longevity in our journeys. That's what keeps us going, is that health, that tangible stuff. And that's what, consistent tangibility. My words are not coming so great today, so
you know what? That's it's a day for fluidity. Astrologically,
there you go.
Today is a day of ideas and inspiration, not necessarily concrete.
Oh, you know what? Hold that thought. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I have a couple more questions for you. I want to dive in a bit more about the palm reading, the hand analysis. So we're talking about the biology, thinking the brain to the lines on a person's hand, but you're also using your intuition. And I know you, Lisa. I know what your intuition is like. You have a powerful intuition, and you see things so clearly. But I want to know more about how you used the word straddle earlier. How you use biology and your intuition in your readings. How do those come together? What would you give it percentage-wise?
That's a scale, but that's very much, and it's interesting because Libra, it's very much a balancing scale. In some cases, I lean more towards the science. In other cases, I lean more towards the intuition. It depends on the person that I'm sitting in front of. And it's very much a fluid. What I like, the scientific gives me an anchor that's like edges for intuition, because intuition is unboundaried. We have the collective unconscious. They've proven that when, they've done, people who are tracking the electromagnetic field on the earth, when major events, traumatic events happen, like when 9/11 happened, there was a spike electromagnetically that went throughout the world. So it's like we are connected. It's the science, the facts, some of the linear and tasks give me a container and help me put it in a context that can hold all of that intuition. So that's why the flow is there. And you need both. We require both. We came with a match set, just like a left hand and a right hand. So a left eye and a right eye. We're very binary. We've got, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 breasts, 2 ovaries, 2 testes, 2 feet. It's like we really do have the science and the linear and the task specific and the unboundaried and the all inclusive. So again, for me, it's very much a flowing balance. And with one person it might be 60% intuition and 40% science, and somebody else maybe 75% science and 25% intuition. It depends on the person.
Right. It depends on how and that's using your intuition right there, is intuitively understanding how a person is going to best be able to receive the information you're giving them.
Right. And also how I'm best going to be able to convey it. So it's both sides of the equation. So, yeah, because occasionally I will wander on somebody who's very, very, very heavy in their mind, and I find myself using less and less of the mind to connect with them, just to balance out the place in them that
right.
is so tightly controlled. Mm-hmm.
Right. Wow. So one of the, I don't think I mentioned this in your intro, and I should have, is that you've read over 20,000 hands. Is that number valid? That's the correct number, right?
Well
20,000?
Well over 20,000.
Well over. Okay.
Yeah.
Have we lost count?
Yes. It's funny because in one 5-year period alone, out of over 40, I read over 10,000 hands in one 5-year period.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
And you also, you read for everybody, but I know you've worked several, you're based out of Hollywood, so you've worked several of the big events there. You do celebrity.
You joined me
hand
at
celebrity
the
reading.
Emmy,
Yeah.
I
did. I got to do it in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that was way fun. So you've been doing that for a number of years, right?
Yes, 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Okay, great. Okay, I just want to throw that out there because it just lends. It's just more fun facts and lends to the incredible depth of experience that you have in this area. But so, given that depth of experience, all of those hands you've read, all the different variety of personalities, everything that you've come across. I know that you just mentioned something on your website that's a way for people to go and look at their hands and do sort of a self-analysis. But I did want to ask if you had 2 or 3 or even one special something that you can share with the listeners on the show that can look at their palm and look for something in particular on what a certain line means.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Glad you asked. Yeah.
Oh, good.
And I love doing that because that's so much fun for people to be able to know. All right, what I want you to know is everybody has the 3 main lines. You've got your heart line, which starts underneath your pinky and rolls across your hand and usually ends under your middle finger or your first finger. Okay? Mm-hmm. Then on the opposite side of your hand, starting above your thumb, you've got like a little wishbone area where you've got 2 lines that one is your headline. The top line is your headline that rolls probably, for the most part across your hand and ends under your ring finger or your pinky. For some, they curve down more. But there's another line underneath that is your lifeline that wraps from just above your thumb down towards where your wrist, where your the end of your hand. The wrist is. I'm having trouble with words today too. So but it starts out almost horizontal and winds up vertical. So that is your lifeline. Now your heart line and your headline. Those 2, your heart line is the starting point with global possibility. What that means is our heart line shows us how well we learned to start creating. Did we learn to create in a smaller box? Did we learn to create in a bigger box? What was your nurturing and upbringing like that told you what was possible? Your headline is then the task specific, and that's where we learned how to go about sticking language and actions on the possibilities revealed by our heart line. All right, so now if your heart line and headline, if they end under an inside finger, in other words, your heart line doesn't stretch across to make it towards an edge near, like underneath your first finger, whether it curves up or is straight, if it doesn't make it to an edge, if it ends under an inside finger, that means that you're somebody who needs your alone time in order to be able to be creatively stimulated. It's those aha moments that come more when you're alone. All right? Now, your headline if your headline doesn't make it to an outside finger, if it stays more on the inside of your hand, then you're somebody who you're comfortable with actions, that you can get the boots on the ground and get it done, or really, create, put words or language around it, but you need more of that internal space. It's just very simple. If those lines end more on the inside of your hands, you are more of an internal processor. If your heart line and your headline make it towards they don't have to get all the way to the outside edge, but if they get under that outside finger, like under the pinky or under the pointer finger region, then you are an external processor. So you're somebody who's going to need to talk to other people to really get your best ahas, and cement down your ideas. And the people with the straighter lines, people with the straight lines tend to be action people. They tend to be a little more impatient. I call them my travelers. They are moving from point A to point B, and their goal is to get there. The more curve you have on the lines, the more you are a tourist. In other words, you want to take in the sights. You want to enjoy the process. You want to, see what's happening along the way, rather than just get the results. So those are two fun little facts. And by the way, everybody has some curve in their lifeline. So nobody gets out of life without seeing some of the sights.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Do you have, I would imagine you have resources packed on your website when it comes to the lines on your hand, if people wanted to learn more about that?
That is what the little online sample. Yeah, the online sample.
Okay, so more details, more depth on your website. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Okay, let's shift gears as long as you're done. Did I cut you off, or is that what you wanted to tell us?
No.
Did I wrap it up?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Sorry, we had a little phone glitch there for a moment.
We had a moment. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears then from your hand analysis. I want to talk a little bit about your tarot and your astrology. I wanted to get, like, how does your experience in the hand analysis lend itself to your work with the other divination tools that you use, the tarot and the astrology? How do you tie all of that together, if you do at all?
I do, and it does all tie together because it all comes down to earth, air, fire, water, which really, in the cups and pentacles and swords and wands in tarot, and in astrology, you've got, the earth signs, the air signs, the water signs, and the fire signs. All of that, it all comes down to mind, body, heart, and spirit. Our body is the earth or the pentacles. Our hearts are the cups, or the emotions. Our mind is the air, or the swords, and our intuition is the fire or the wand. So they all tie together. And I started to see, the more I did this work, I started to see the similarities between, somebody has an air placement in their heart line, and sure enough, the Queen of Swords comes up, which is also the air queen, so there's the correlation just kept building. And then, of course, we look at the astrology, and, they've got, air in a prominent place in their chart. It doesn't always map out exact, but there's a signature that goes with it. So it all ties together because it's all just descriptions of us. How we're using our heart, how we're using our mind, how we're using our body, and how we're using our intuition.
So you all excited earlier when you started talking about the astrology today. So I am not an astrologer, so I depend on you tell me what's going on in the skies. So would you mind? Do you have some information for us? Would you like to share what's going on in skies right now?
Sure. And the other thing for people to know is also on my website that you've got my tarot card of the week, which is on there, that each Sunday it is posted so that you can see what the astrology is for the week. And it's along with the tarot cards. So it's some additional information that kind of gives you a day by day. And so we've got today, the astrology is one that really puts us in a position to be talking to other people. And the tarot card of the day is also the Three of Wands. So, which is threes are always about communication. Okay. So with the wands, it's intuitive communication, which is ironic because look at what we're doing, Ingrid. You know, so it's like, okay, hello. But it's about don't worry about it not being concrete. Don't worry about today is not a day to deal in, you know, with the astrology is not a day to try and pin things down or be precise. You need to just let the conversations inspire you and fill you up. And then from there, you know, see where it takes you. Don't be too quick because the intuition, you know, fire and intuition end under a Jupiter influence, which is expansion. And so too often our brainstem gets uncomfortable with expansion. It doesn't know how to navigate the unknown. So what it does is it's going to try and limit you by scaring you, you know, coming up with worst case scenarios. And this is where the mind, you know, can absolutely hijack you. And you have to be very careful with you know, that. It's interesting because in some disciplines the mind is considered fire. And I disagree with that. The mind is very cool and detached and separates us. The spirit is fire, and the spirit is the visionary. What I like to say is when our intuitive vision collides with our fears, then we have the ability to imagine the worst and make it happen. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the challenge, because think about it. Fire and air together creates an explosion. So today we've got fire and air combining. So you want to be careful to harness that and let it take you in a direction that, you know, small leaps rather than if you leap too far too fast. It's one that can actually really put you in a position to have that backlash where your fear brain takes over, hijacks you, and starts imagining the worst. And then your intuition gets on board. And remember, we recognize patterns. So you'll unconsciously be steering yourself towards a pattern you don't want to repeat. Right.
Wow. Okay, folks. So easy does it today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Easy does it today. It's a good.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And because there's, you know, the thing is with you know, I could go into, there's a lunar square to Venus. So it's like the moon is where we feel safe. Venus is where we want more and want to connect and expand, you know, and then the moon opposes Neptune, which means that, you know, you, excuse me, when there's opposition, you get shown the other side. So the other side can have shadow involved. You know, but talking about all the different aspects, most people I find really just want it distilled down into what does that mean to me?
Right. Well, yeah.
That's really
it's true.
With me. Yeah.
Well, that's great. You did a great job of distilling that down for us today. I mean, that's what I got out of it. Whoa, okay, take it easy, folks. Like, I'm going to take it easy today. I'm not going to create conflict today. Well, you know, Lisa, one of the, you know, all of these are tools that you use, your hand analysis, your tarot, your astrology, but really what you are is a brilliant coach. You're a brilliant life coach. And the way I see you work is you take these tools and your intuitive skills and it all comes together and complements and binds together in a way in which you can talk to people, relate with people, understand people, and you can really help people navigate out of those self-destructive behaviors, out of those patterns that they keep finding themselves looping in and in again. And I know that you have talked to hundreds, thousands of people in your career, the 8 years that you've been doing this full time, but I didn't know you 8 years ago, but I feel like I know you well enough now to know that you've always been that for people, even if not in a professional setting. So I wanted to ask you if you have a few nuggets of wisdom you can share with us, something that comes up over and over again in your work, problems that people run into, patterns that people have that they have a hard time breaking, and solutions you've found that really help people who you've worked with break down those walls and move into a more enlightened living space.
Absolutely, and thank you, Ingrid. You've truly been a joy to watch. You had such a tremendous gift in your intuition, and then to see you really choose to build it and focus on expanding and strengthening that gift has been a joy and a privilege to watch. So
thank you.
Yes, truly.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You were that person for me too, what I just described. You were someone who in my life I could consistently go to help me break down those self-imposed barriers like I'm talking about.
Well, thank you. And you know what? I think you have a real gift for it as well. That's one of the reasons why we enjoy each other, because
right.
I really do appreciate your gift. And as far as for your listeners, what I want them to take away with is our brainstem, back to the biology. The brainstem gets there 2 seconds faster because it's our survival instinct. When we've got a danger threatening us, you don't want to be reasoning out what the best strategy is. You just want a knee-jerk reaction that's going to get you out of danger. And so that's what our brainstem is. And that's, again, where we underestimate ourselves and overestimate the threat because our brainstem isn't smart. And so the most important thing, I really like sharing this brain retraining tool because I've seen it work in all levels. I've got clients who face some extraordinary pressures, from the public and also, those in the business world, but I have a global reach. And this is a great pattern interrupter that is very simple and very effective. I'm a broken record when it comes to the breath of love. I know that you know that your readers can, and those who want, if they want a video of this, they can reach out on my website on the contact page. Just tell me that you want the breath of love, and I will send you the video. But it's a simple 3-step pattern interrupter that gets us out of fear and into our frontal lobe. So it's harnessing our biology to work for us so that we can then make decisions from a much more balanced and integrated space. And it starts with, believe it or not, that step 1. It's a 3-step process. Step 1 is the most crucial. Exhale, and I mean all the way out. I want you to wring your lungs out like a washcloth. And the very act of forcing all the air out is what's counterintuitive. It overrides the survival instinct, which is the brainstem, to gulp the air in. Forcing yourself to exhale, you have just flipped a switch. That frontal lobe overrode your brainstem and is back in charge. So that's why it's crucial. You have to flip that switch. Breathe out. Wring your lungs out. Now, and step 2 is a nice, slow, deep breath in, and the whole time you're breathing in, you're reassuring yourself, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And then one more gentle exhale out. I'm loved, I'm loved, I'm loved, I'm loved. And you don't have to say the words. It's so cute. One woman emailed me. She goes, I'm having trouble breathing and saying the words at the same time. And it's like, you can just think them. It's okay. So it's this simple formula that puts your conscious mind, your frontal lobe, back in charge and allows you to make decisions from a much more appropriate aged place, because our brainstem in most of us is 2 to 4 years old, and that's not the great decision maker. I don't care how talented a 4-year-old you were. That's not appropriate to the situation. So when we start by realizing our frontal lobe has the capacity to learn not only from our mistakes but from everybody around us. It's an incredible incorporator of information. It's the mirror neuron place, where when we see other people do it, it's like nobody thought a 4-minute mile was possible, until Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. And then within the next 3 years, 7 more people did. That's what your frontal lobe is doing all the time. So when you do this with love and get out of your brainstem and into your frontal lobe, suddenly your brain is making synaptic connections that pick up all of the information you've ever seen about what can work, because you're no longer in crisis mode. You're in, you're in action rather than reaction.
Right.
Okay? So that's one of the most profound and simple ways. I do that exercise all the time. When I have to stop for red lights, I'll stop and get a breath of love in, because every time you do it, you're going to the mental gym. And that's one gym that, you absolutely want to be in top shape. It'll serve you the rest of your life. So. Right.
Oh, that's a good, again, concrete, solid, something you can sink your teeth into. I love that you bring so much to this work. To the coaching and the intuitive reader that you do and that we do. So that's just great. Gosh, you are a well of knowledge. It's so fun. I learn something new every time I talk to you. It's like, really? I'm new. So love it. You're going to write a book one day.
Oh, yes. Well, I absolutely will. Absolutely.
Well, Lisa, thank you so very, very much for joining us today and for sharing your wealth of knowledge and the astrology for the day and the nuggets of wisdom for us. So much appreciated. Loved having you on. This 40 minutes went by so fast.
Yes,
we're going to have to do this again, because you have more to share. We have more to learn.
Thank you. And forgive me, I'm not able to stay on today for the questions, but I know that if there's any, you can relay them to me, and I'll be happy to answer them by email. So,
you know what? Thank you so much for that offer, but it turns out we don't have any callers today, so it's kind of perfect. So, and you just gave us the forecast, so we're doing great. Before you leave us, can you tell us one more time how to contact you?
Sure. The website is truthinhand.com, and there's a free online sample for you, as well as a place for you to talk geek to me, or just ask a question, contact page. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Lisa. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Ingrid. Appreciate being on.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Well, since the fabulous Lisa Greenfield already gave us a snapshot of what's going on today and bleeding out into the week in terms of astrology, I'm not going to sully that by doing a channeled energies this week. I think she covered it. She's good. We're good. Okay, we got it. Let's go. Take it easy, peeps. I know I'm going to. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our show a little bit early. Thank you so much again, Lisa, calling out to her. Thank you for coming on today and sharing with us your knowledge and your wisdom. Love to hear about her work always. Thank you for those who are listening to the show today. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be doing this with you. I want to thank my producer, Reverend Tiffany White Sage Woman of Goldilocks Productions. So without her, this show would not be possible. If you want to get in touch with me for any reason, you can book a session with me. You can inquire about working with me long term, or just leave me some feedback. I want to hear it. So please visit my website at www.ingridhturner.com. That's INGRIDHTURNER.com. Our next show is again on Tuesday next week, November 1st, already at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again for joining. I'm so looking forward to diving in again next week. You have a wonderful day.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
Run to Old Navy to treat yourself with up to 40% off store-wide on fall's best dresses, cozy sweaters, and must-have jeans. Talk about a treat. Save up to 40% off at Old Navy or OldNavy.com. Run to Old Navy today. Valid 10/23 to 11/1. Select styles only.